Welcome to another Vibrant Music Teacher chat, where today we're going to be talking about oral work, listening, ear training, whatever you want to be calling it. We're going to be chatting about it today. We're going to be running through a broad look at all the different areas of oral that we need to teach, how to include it in your teaching, how to fit it into your smushed lessons, even though they're already so full, and make things work for you. And if you've been neglecting oral, then this is your chance to get started, okay? So let's do this. Hey there everyone, it is so fantastic to be back with you again. I saw a comment there from Faye saying it's a beautiful morning over there in Ohio. Chime in and let me know how it is where you are. Unfortunately, it was raining earlier today here, as usual, I guess, but I did look out the window and go, oh, and look at my husband and go, oh, it's raining again, because I had hoped to go for a walk. But it's all good, because the best news ever today is that I finally made a decision about which digital piano to buy. Basically, the story, I'm going to summarize this because we are talking about oral work. But to let you know where I'm at today, I have a huge sense of relief right now because I finally made a decision about this digital piano, because I need a third instrument to make my lessons work this September, because I'm going to be opening up the studio for some in-person lessons again. That's where we're at in Ireland. That's what the schools are fully opening again and everything. So that's where we're going to be. Here, personally, doesn't mean it affects what you're doing where you are, but that's where we are. And I need a third instrument to make that make sense. And so I've been humming and hawing and watching YouTube reviews, as some of you may have seen from my comments on Facebook, for like a week now. And it takes so much energy to make that decision, and I'm just so glad it's done. I've ordered something, I've spent the money, it's gone. Whatever happens from here happens. It's exasperated, perhaps you guys know, perhaps you don't, by the fact that there's a huge backlog right now. So the factories were closed for 3 months. Most of the factories in China, right? So they closed for 3 months a while back, and that's starting to hit us now. So just a word of warning, if you are going to need an instrument soon, you have to give it a bit of lead time. It's going to be hard to get what you want when you want it. Anyway, YouTube reviews are super helpful, Carrie, I agree, but they're also a bit of a rabbit hole. So I'm just glad to be done watching them for a little while until I have to make my next purchase. I am so excited to talk to you about oral work today, though. Before we get to any of that, I wanted to give you a few notes about things that are coming up and things that are going on. First of all, I've heard from several of you and members and subscribers, things like that, getting in touch with me saying, I'm so worried about what I'm going to do with my new students who are joining my studio either in an online lesson situation or in a socially distant situation. They're actually very similar. A lot of the ways I'm going to be teaching are really similar to an online lesson structure because of how distant we need to be, or have to try to be, that I want to be, within the studio context. So I've been hearing from many of you here on YouTube and elsewhere about these worries. What am I going to do with my new students? How am I going to make this work? How is it going to make sense to take on a new student in a pandemic? Can I even do it? And I think you absolutely can, but I understand the concern. So I'm currently working on some resources specifically for new students. We're going to be talking about the interview stage and the first few lessons to get you up and running without having to immediately give someone a book, because you don't have time to consider the different books and you can't try different things with them, all of those considerations. So we're going to be putting together a set of lesson plans that's going to make sense for that, as well as some advice for new student interviews. I think that's going to be helpful for many of you who are struggling with that right now. So that's one thing that's coming up. That's what I'm currently working on myself. Another thing I wanted to note right away, by the way, hit the like button if you're excited for that, especially members who are live. if you're excited for those lesson plans, if it sounds like it's something that you really need in your studio right now, or if there's something else you need right now that we're not offering for you, let us know about that too. But the other thing I wanted to note is about the schedule for these chats right here. As you know, at the start of the summer, we moved to Wednesdays only. That's been working pretty well. I'm so glad to see so many of you joining live each week. That's absolutely awesome. But it's going to be moving. And hopefully you're going to be able to come with me to the new time. So the reason it's moving is, well, next week I'm going away. I mean, I'm going 2 counties over, but I'm going away, which, I'm looking forward to, but I'm going to be away for next Wednesday. And also in September, it looks like I'm going to have to work a full Wednesday. So what we're going to do is we're going to move it now to Mondays because that's safe. And we're going to stick with Mondays for perpetuity, for as long as I'm able to do that, which should hopefully be for the full year. So Mondays, I put up a poll in the Facebook group about the Monday time, and it was really interesting because I gave you a choice in Dublin time of 2 p.m, 3 p.m, and 4 p.m. So this right now is 3 p.m. Dublin time. So I gave a choice of those 3 times, 2, 3, and 4, and 3 lost, which I just thought was weird. Isn't it? Right? Because it's in the middle. But anyway, 3 did lose. So 4 p.m. was the winner. So we're going to go with 4 p.m. my time. So if you're watching this live or looking at the time it went live on the replay, that's going to be an hour later than we're currently doing on Wednesdays. So it's going to be an hour later, but on Mondays. Okay? So you will get the YouTube notification if you're subscribed. Make sure to subscribe. You will get our emails if you're subscribed to the emails that go out. But just to note that that's changing from next week, and I hope you'll be able to join me on Mondays. It should be just as fun as it is here on Wednesdays. Last little note before we dive into oral work, and let me know your questions about oral because I'm happy to do some question time. I've seen a couple coming through already. Oh, Carrie, you can still make it. That's great. I'm so looking forward to seeing you there. So, last note about that is next week. So next Monday, it's only 5 days away. Yay, they're close together. We're going to be talking about work-life balance. So today is oral, and next Monday is going to be work-life balance. These are all inspired by the Teacher Tracker. This summer series is inspired by the Teacher Tracker. And the Teacher Tracker is our way of helping you narrow in on what you actually want to look at any one time in your teaching to help you improve. So this is available to all VMT members. They can take a quiz and they get a results table that looks something like this to help them track all the different 9 areas of teaching and business that you might want to improve on at any one time. Because the truth is, you have to pick one of these at a time. I know, it sucks, it's horrible, you have to choose. But if you don't choose, then you don't make any progress because you're scattered all over the place. So that's exactly what this helps you do, is pick one at a time and come back for the others later. And today's topic, which is one of those 9, is oral work. So next week is going to be work-life balance. Today, though, we're diving into oral. So I saw a question coming through there. Paducah, I know you do oral training as part of piano, the Power Booster lessons. Is there anything in the works to make these lessons more virtual friendly, like the games going in the Google Slides format? Okay, so we're not going to be making the full plans more virtual friendly, but what we are doing is this new thing that I've been talking about that we're going to do for you to work with new students is going to be based off of the first few lessons of Piano Power Booster 1 / Tiny Finger Takeoff. It's going to be somewhere between the two to have a nice gentle pace. And so when you see what I've done with that to adapt, I think it's going to be useful for you adapting going forward. If you then need more advice on how to adapt those plans, we could do a more general workshop about adapting these things. Let me know what would be helpful. But I think when you see that and see how I've done things, you'll see how it doesn't actually take that much tweaking, because a lot of the stuff in the Piano Power Boosters is really based on movement and games. And yes, the games might have to be adapted, but a lot of the stuff we're doing, all we have to do is make it work solo if there was a duet and stuff like that. So see what you think after you've seen those plans and let me know. Right, let's look at some general, broad aural stuff, because that's what this series is all about. It's about zooming out and saying, what are all of the things to do with aural work, or any given topic we're doing each week, and where are we at with all of them, and then we can zoom in on specific parts that we want to learn about or improve or find out more about that we didn't know about before. Okay? So let's zoom out. I'm going to start with aural games today. I know, surprise, surprise, games, right? But I wanted to start with games because if you're currently not doing any aural work in your lessons, I think this is a good, easy way to start. And I know that a lot of teachers are maybe not doing aural work in their lessons. I know that my teacher certainly didn't. I know that I didn't for the first several years of my own lessons, like specific aural work, or even really in the context of pieces, if I'm honest. And so I wanted to start with games because it's an easy way to bring this in that is not just like exam specimen tests. Because a lot of teachers are leaving out aural work. Understandably, you've got 30 minutes, you can't cram everything in, and it just seems like something you can put aside each week and then it spirals and you never fit it in, right? But then you come down to an exam or an assessment or something, and suddenly your student needs to be able to identify intervals or answer specific questions or sightseeing, and then you're just scrambling just to teach to that test. That's the trap we fall into. So bringing just some games into your lessons is going to be a great place to start. So let me share a few of my favorites from VMT. The first one is the aural training paddles. I didn't have time to pull these out, by the way, but I'm going to describe them briefly. The aural training paddles are little things on sticks that you hold up one or the other based on what you hear. So for little kids, it starts with high and low and loud and soft, and they're just animals. And then there's a next level of those. By the way, long-time members, if you haven't seen them yet, if you downloaded the aural paddles ages ago, there is now a notation version to progress to, which I find really useful. So the first set has, a lion and a bunny for loud and soft, and then the next set, which is all in the one document, has an F and a P. Yeah? So they do progress to the notation version, and that's a great way to go with those. That's all incorporated into the plans, the Piano Power Booster plans and all of those. So that's my favorite first one. It's great for beginners, super adaptable, simple, easy to do. If you are teaching online right now, just take the concept of those, take this versus that, and make your student mime the thing or draw the thing on their end. So for that lion and bunny, you're going to be a lion with a big mane, or do a roar if they think it's loud, or a little bunny, right? Simple as that, just make up actions to go with them. And if you're doing the notation, then get them to write a P or an F on a blank sheet of paper or a mini whiteboard if they have one on their end. Okay, easy peasy to adapt. The next one I wanted to mention is Sidestep Sulfa. This is one of my long-term favorites. This is where we have those sulfa signs and we put them on the floor. And no, we won't do that. Sorry, I'm interrupting myself, but I almost thought about, will I pull up that video on YouTube of Bobby McFerrin that this is inspired by? But no, because then I'll get a YouTube copyright claim. So we're not going to do that. But look it up. Bobby McFerrin plays the audience is what the clip is called. And that's what this game was inspired by, because Bobby jumps side to side on the stage. So he's doing ba, ba, that's how he goes. And then the audience sings along and they guess the next note when he jumps higher. And he's doing the pentatonic scale. Anyway, great clip. Definitely look it up if you haven't seen it. But Sidestep Sulfa is based on that. So we have Sulfa hand signs as our symbols on the floor. I know, right, Kelly? It's awesome. I love it. And those are laid out on the spots on the floor so that your student can hop side to side like Bobby McFerrin does. And then they are hopping patterns. They can either be composing their own or reading them off cards. Now, you're in online lessons. But you can do exactly what I just did. You don't need the signs on the floor, right? So if you can arrange it that you can be standing up, even if your student is going to be a bit off camera if they stand up, you can still see if they're hopping side to side, right? So you could still do this as a relay back and forth. So you sing and hop a pattern, they sing and hop it back to you. Then you develop it to the next stage where you hop and they have to sing the pattern you hopped. So you could start with just do, re, simple as that, and then progress from there. I hope that's making sense as a way to rework that for online lessons. Okay. Students love that video too, by the way. If you haven't ever played that for your students, do. Especially like tweens, teens, they think it's really cool. It is really cool. So might win over some reluctant teens for you. Right, the next game I wanted to mention was Greedy Magpie. So Greedy Magpie is about tones and semitones, or half and whole steps. And it's just a really fun one because it's randomized. So the way I play it, your student doesn't actually have to know the difference between tones and semitones. They're learning through it, so it's what I would call a discovery game. But you can also play it as a test version, so there's almost 2 levels to it. If you look that game up, it's very easy to adapt to online lessons. You can hold up the graphics for fun for your student, for the rings and stuff, to add them to the board. Like, you can do that just on the camera using the printout, but most of it is actually aural. So it's going to work great through online lessons, pretty much just as it is. Okay, Sheila, that's a good question. So if you're talking about me hopping side to side, let's see, does it look right to you now? I'm not honestly sure. So if I do do, re, mi, am I going backwards or the right way around? You guys tell me. If I'm going backwards, then you'll need to do it in reverse. If I'm not, then we're fine. Might just take some experiment, but this is the kind of thing that you can do with students and just be honest, like, I'm not sure if this is going to be backwards or forwards. And get them to try it, or get them to analyze whether you're doing it backwards. Okay, Faye says I am going backwards. So awesome. So go the other way. This is something I haven't adapted for online lessons. It's just I'm listing my favorite aural games and then I'm giving you suggestions about them. So do it the reverse. Just like a PE teacher would do at the top of a class. You know, they have to do everything backwards. Some yoga teachers and stuff don't. They'll cue it the way they're doing it, but some do it backwards. Most dance teachers will do the reverse, or they'll turn their back. Anyway, that's a total aside, but similar concept. Okay, the last one I wanted to mention was aural owls. That's a great one with multiple levels. And if you literally just pulled the PDF up on screen, I think you could play that in online lessons. So those are the little cards with short aural patterns. It's short singing patterns, and you can get your student to sing them for you, or if you're going to play them in person, like I'm maybe about to in September, you're going to have to get them to hum, because singing is a no-go at the moment, so humming. So those are just patterns of owls on a simple stave. They're like 2-line staves, and they increase, so depends on the level, but there's different levels of them. And if you just pull the PDF up and screen share, they're almost the full width of the page, so your student is going to be able to see enough of that to be able to use it on screen, no problem. It won't be super neat and tidy, but it will definitely work in online lessons as well. Okay, so those are my favorite games. Next, I wanted to talk about Sulfur, because I've brought it up a few times here indirectly. I've been saying do, re, mi, right, while I was stepping backwards, so you need to go the other way. But that's what I've been saying. And some of you may be thinking, oh, well, this is getting into a territory where I have no idea what's going on, and you may be staying quiet in the chat right now because you're thinking, oh, I don't even know what Sulfur is. Or, I don't know what the difference is between that and solfege, or whatever. Let me answer that last one, because that's a silly one that comes up this year. Comes up frequently. I read a post at the same time as saying that. It comes up frequently, is this difference between solfa and solfege. Different people will answer that differently, but the Kadai Institute in Ireland would say that solfege is what you call the classes, and then solfa is... So solfege is just the subject, it's essentially just the noun version. So in most cases I'm saying solfa because that's how they told me to use the terms, and I'm going to go with what they say. If you say solfege, no judgment, no worries, maybe you think I'm wrong, that's fine. Either way, what it is a simple system for processing music. That's what solfa really is. So those do, re, mi sounds, they're just a way of understanding music. But they are a really great tool for understanding music. They are intuitive, they're easy to sing and easy to understand. When my students are familiar with solfa and we get, for example, from to the point where they're going to learn the natural minor scale, I can tell them, play a major scale but start on la. How simple is that explanation? It's not, okay, step down this many semitones. It's not that complicated. It's just start on la. They totally get it and they get the concept. Okay, these two things are related, but they sound different. Simple as that. And that's just one little example. So I find solfa to be one of the best tools, and the longer I use it, the more uses I find for it, and the more light bulbs I see going off in students' brains about it. Now, let's do a quick, since this is a zoom out explainer style of series, let's do a quick explainer for those who are not familiar with what solfa is and all this movable do, fixed do stuff. Okay? You ready? Right. What I use is movable do solfa with a la-based minor. So let me break down those two things that might be confusing for you right now if you didn't learn a system like this, because many people didn't. Movable do means that the first note of the major in that key signature is always do. So if I'm in C major, I'm going to sing C as do. But if I move to D major, D is do. The la-based minor bit means do is not the tonic. Do is always the first note of the major scale. So if I'm singing the minor, as I just said, I start on la. If anyone needs clarity around any of that confusing jargon, let me know in the comments, because I know it confuses people, and I know that they're embarrassed to ask, and you don't have to be. You're not supposed to know absolutely everything about every musical system ever, okay? Right, so that's what solfa is in my studio. I do not use fixed do. Fixed do is an alternative way of naming notes. So do is always C. So that's just another way of naming C, and that's fine. But it's a totally different beast. It's nothing to do with what the job that solfa does in my studio. Laurie, yes, do is not the tonic, because do is not the tonic in the minor scale, for example, or if I change to a mode, do is not the first note of that scale. Whereas tonic means the first scale degree in any scale. You get the distinction there? So it's a la-based minor because, if we take C major, A minor is the relative. We start on la, which is A, and that's a la-based minor. So it doesn't move when you're in the same key signature. Okay, what was I saying about solfa? Oh yeah, the fixed do thing is a whole separate beast and has nothing to do with the way I use solfa. And it doesn't have these properties that I'm talking about that help you understand music in this way. It is an easier note name to sing than C is. That's basically the difference there. So I would never really recommend using C and fixed do. I know many people do. I don't personally see a huge benefit to that when you can have these two different parallel systems that give you a completely different understanding of music. So the first thing I wanted to say about solfa, now that we've got what it is out of the way, is not to be scared of it. So many teachers with stuff like solfa or the Kadai syllables we talked about last week, or any other tool that you're just unfamiliar with, you can be scared to use it, right? Because you don't feel like you have mastery of it. But you do have mastery of music, okay? It doesn't mean that just because you don't know absolutely everything about solfa, you're just not super confident using it. It doesn't mean you can't guide your students through it. You absolutely can. because you have that musical ability, and you might not trust it at first. You totally won't. But it is actually there. Many of you might have found this with online lessons. I have. In my online lessons, I've been noticing how much more developed my ear is than even a few years ago. And I don't often get the opportunity to test it in person. But in online lessons, I have to. And so just little corrections I'm making, I've been sort of acknowledging to myself, oh my gosh, your ear has really gotten a lot better, to me, patting myself on the back, you know, because it has. It's so much better than it was even a few years ago, and that is through teaching this stuff. So you don't have to be an expert in it right away. You can get started with it, even if it seems scary or a bit foreign, and I'd encourage you to give it a go. I'm going to give you 2 simple ways to get started with Sulfur if you've never used it in your studio before. Whichever one of these sounds easy to you, do that one. Simple as that, okay? I'm saying that a lot today, haven't I? I hope it is as simple as that. Whichever one of these 2 sounds easy to you, please just do that one. Don't worry about it. Don't fret about the right choice. So the first option is to use it for sight singing. I mention this because this is how I first used Sulfur. The reason I got into Sulfur in the first place, before I ever did any Kadai training or anything like that, was I had students going through piano exams. And in our piano exams with the Irish board, this is unusual as I've since learned, but in our piano exams here, we have to do sight singing as part of our oral tests. So we're given a short piece of music and we have to sing it at sight. And yeah, like I say, I've since learned that's not all that common. Even some voice exams do not include sight singing tests, or at least some of them are not at the level that we had to do. But I had to do them for all of my exams. I did all the exams growing up, and my students have to do them when they go in for their piano exams. And I actually think it's really good. What is not really good is that most of the time piano teachers, music teachers in general, are not teaching them. They're not teaching students a method to tackle them. And so I got into Sulfur because I was looking at these tests and going, there has to be a way to actually learn how to do this. Rather than just telling students, as I was told, oh, just hear it in your head or something like that. As a 10-year-old, you cannot do that. That is the classic curse of knowledge, where your teacher thinks that you can do what they can do, which is fully audiate a melody in their head. I could not do that when I was doing exams. And so I was, you've got your inability to do it, genuinely cannot do this, combined with your belief that you cannot do it, combined with the utter mortification of being a teenager who has to sing to a stranger. I mean, those sight singing tests were the worst part of every exam I ever did. They were horrible. I hated the experience. I always felt completely useless, and they did nothing to develop my education. So I was looking at these with my student who was going up for them. She was 12 going on 13. I knew she was going to be embarrassed to sing them, and I knew that she didn't have an effective tool, and she was asking me how she was supposed to tackle them. And so I did some research, and I came across Sulfur, and I'd done it. The only experience I had in Sulfur was I don't even know what exact methodology it was, but it was some form of Kodai based class as a wee one, like as when I was 4 or 5. My mum sent me in for a music class, so I knew Sulfur from that, if that counts. But yeah, so I started exploring it, and I just started teaching it to my student as I was learning it myself, starting with super simple exercises, and you can start that way too. Just simple things, and start with exercises, because starting with using it for pieces is great, but it's going to be more challenging for you initially if you're not comfortable with it. You're not going to be sure which note you're starting on all the time, and the intervals, you're just not going to be fluent enough. So start with some simple exercises, bring those in, something like aural owls or the hexatonic pattern cards, where you're sure that it's within certain parameters, and just sight singing together. Just like 1 minute of every lesson. You can do that. And it's going to make a difference. It's going to make you more comfortable with that. Yes, ABRSM 2, Jenny. You have to do sight singing in the ABRSM exams. What I'm talking about, the comparison was, I think it's RCM, and I think it's also the Australian boards. They don't have that requirement, to the best of my knowledge. Things may be changing, and I might just be thinking of certain ones, but I remember talking to a voice teacher. I was talking to Nikki Loney, if any of you know her. She's from Full Voice Music, and she was appalled, or just amazed, not appalled. She was thought it was quite impressive that piano students had to do these sight singing tests when her Canadian singing students, voice students, did not. You know what I mean? Anyway, so that's one way to get started. The other way is to do some simple Sulfur warm-ups. So this is not to do with notation. It's to do with just warming up at the start of lessons, warming up your ears and your voice by singing together. You can do this using hand signs or without hand signs. The hand signs are called the Kerwin hand signs that are commonly used. So do, re, mi. And you can just learn 3 at a time. That's enough to get you started. Just sing those notes. You see what I mean? You can keep things simple and basic and progress from there along with your students. You're still going to be stronger than them at this naturally because you do have that musical training, even if it's not on a solfa. Okay? So you can do it with the hand signs. You can also do it with nothing and just sing in solfa together, or you can make up your own hand signs. I often use, in person now, I often use the floor as do, and then tapping our legs as re, and just going up the body like that. On camera, on an online lesson, I would put do here, and then re, and then mi on your ears, something like that, knowing that I need to progress. Start like that. With a lot of piano students, I do, if they've been learning piano already for a while, I do like to start with do, re, mi. People who are more familiar with Kadai may know that you're most start with so and mi as the first 2 notes. That's great, and it makes a lot of sense for those reasons. But within a piano context, I think it's fine to start with do, re, mi because they do have their ear tuned to that anyway. So start whichever place feels comfortable for you. Yeah, Louise, that's a great one for online lessons, specifically for online lessons, aural apes. Okay, so. That is solfa. The basics of solfa. Give it a go. If you've never used it before, let me know in the chat actually. Are you using it all the time? Or is it new for you? And if you haven't used it, does one of those sound doable? Because I'd love you to give this a try. Okay, now let's talk about the other side of aural, which is playing by ear. This is a whole other thing, but I feel like it fits into this realm and people can get mixed up in these different areas. So playing by ear is related, obviously, because if your students have a good ear, if they've done aural training, the playing by ear is going to be easier. But they're not completely interlinked. It's not a one circle in a Venn diagram, right? They're linked, there's overlapping skills, but they're still not going to be super confident just playing a piece by ear off the bat, even if they can do all of your aural interval tests. So, I think this is important to do in tandem with all students learning across the board. Both things. Some kind of specific aural training and playing by ear. At the very least, get all of your students to play a few songs using their ears. This is not to develop amazing playing by ear skills that they can use to be the envy of any cocktail pianist, right? It's not that. What it is, though, is it's that thing that I call opening the door. You're just showing them the door and opening it and saying, it's possible for you to do this. Because it is. Everyone can pick out a melody by ear if they're in a controlled environment where they're given a simple opportunity to do so. If you need some structure around this, a great place to start is the brand new transposing challenges. Those were just released on the 1st of August. When was that? Saturday? So they were just released and they're ready for you to go. There are 5 levels within that transposing challenge. Each challenge level has 3 common songs that people often teach by ear, and then we transpose those as well. But that, even if you don't do the transposing, it'll give you a great list of pieces that it's easy to teach students to play by ear in a good order of teaching. Okay? Now the leveling of them is not exactly what you might choose for playing by ear, but it is pretty close. It is chosen specifically for that transposing element though. So things like Mary Had a Little Lamb, Hot Cross Buns, Happy Birthday. Just pick a few pieces that you teach all students by ear. Now, not by rote. Not that you can't teach Mary Had a Little Lamb by rote. You can do that. But this is separate. So make sure you are teaching a few songs by ear. Meaning, you might help in bits and pieces and little places along the way. But your student is primarily learning it by singing the melody to themselves, remembering the melody, and testing notes to see if they are the right notes. Okay? So you will normally give them the starting note because you need to put them in a comfortable key and make it easy on them. So never let them start wherever, because obviously Happy Birthday can start wherever you like, but it's easier to work it out if you make them start on G. Okay? So give them the starting note and then just help them from there by asking questions. So saying, oh, is the next part of the melody going up or down? Oh, I don't know. Okay, well, let's sing it together. You know, Happy Birthday. Oh, well, which way did it go? Stop them when you get to the point that they're up to. Which way did it go? Up or down? Down. Sorry, that's my teenager voice. And just asking little questions to help them through. So don't give in too much unless a student is really struggling, and then give them a note. Like the F in Happy Birthday. In the second last phrase. I think that's right. Whatever. The big jump to F. I sometimes give that to students. Right? So you need to use a little bit of your teacher instinct there. But when I say playing by ear, they have worked most of it out on their own with just some guiding questions from me rather than by rote, which is demonstration, and they play it back. Thanks, Lee. Very proud of my teenager voice. I channel all four of my older brothers as teenagers. You know, it's just a melting pot of all four of them put together. Especially the most epically 15-year-old that there ever was. One of my brothers. I won't name which one. Okay, so that's the areas of of oral work that I wanted to look at. So we had Sulfur, we had the oral games, we had the playing by ear aspect. Last thing I want to do is just talk about some of the most common mistakes, as we always do, with this topic. So the first mistake is teaching to the test. That's how I was taught. I think it's a mistake. It encourages students to think about oral as this separate little chunk and something that you only do for an exam. And it makes their oral skills basically useless. Like if you're able to, even if you're good at those tests, like for example on some exams, not on ours actually, but on some you have to tell them whether it was a major sixth or a minor sixth or whatever, the different intervals. And I don't think that's very useful. They don't end up applying that back to their music. They don't end up being able to play by ear or something like that would actually put that to use. So teaching to the test is really a mistake. It needs to be included along the way. And if you include little bits of oral, you honestly, all of your students will be fine with those tests once you get to them. You'll just be a matter of running through them and making sure they understand the format. So don't even worry about it. Teach the way you want to teach. The tests will fit in along the way if your students do exams. The next mistake I see a lot of teachers making is focusing on the micro elements. So that thing with intervals I mentioned, I don't drill specific intervals. We do that game which is semitones and tones, because specifically that does help tune students' ears and it's a fun game. But I don't ask students whether I played this type of third or that type of third or which interval I played. I think Sulfur is a much better way to do that, because they naturally tune into this vocabulary and it makes sense to them almost instinctively over time rather than them having to identify the intervals. Another mistake that teachers commonly make is not letting oral work be musical. Meaning you put it in this test environment or this exercise environment if you're not doing exams, and you don't let it be music. which sounds like nonsense, but it happens, right? So let it be musical. Let it sing and breathe and be part of the repertoire you're doing. Take excerpts from pieces, do your sight singing from the music, make things musical, focus on the musical aspect of it, and I think you'll do well. So pick out one of those things you want to try that we've talked about today. Something you're not doing at the moment, if there is something. Maybe you're doing all of those, all of the games, all of the sulfur exercises I mentioned, all of the playing by ear stuff. If you are, flying colours, just put a giant smiley face in the chat. If you're not, pick out one of the ones you're not doing that sounds intriguing and commit to it. Write it in the chat, let us know which one that you're going to do. We're going to switch over to my screen now, and it's hopefully going to go to the correct screen this week. And we are going to look at some websites because we do a couple of website reviews every week here. So let's do that. The first one is called Midtown Music Academy. Nope. That's both screens. Very good. Okay, there we go. So this is the Midtown Music Academy. And we're going to take a look around. Let's give it a go. The first thing I noticed straight away on this website is the COVID-19 update. Up the top, as of June 1st, 2020, both online and in-person lessons are available. New students are welcome. I actually love this. It's not like some scary giant warning, but it makes people know straight away that the website is up to date, that they're in a place they can trust, who has thought about what's going on. So if you have a website and you don't have any kind of info on it, I totally get it. It's hard to think of all of these things and keep on top of everything, but I'd encourage you to put something up there. I just did that myself this week, so like I say, if you haven't thought of it or you haven't gotten around to it, don't worry, but try to do it at this time of year because we are heading into a time when you're going to have not just your returning families, but potential new parents coming to your website, and you need them to know you know what's up. So put up a notice like that. I think that's a great idea. I also have a button to click. I wish it was a bit more prominent, this sign up now. So that would be my first tip here, is make this brighter and bigger. And ideally on a website you should, or a simple website anyway, a studio only website, you should have one action color. So at the moment, this and the COVID update are actually the same color. I would stick with one action color, so all your buttons and your links can be the one color. Okay, so having said that, there is a button here which is great. There are also some lovely photos. Yeah, they are stock photos. I would prefer to see real ones. Your actual students, people can tell the difference. This one is super cute, but still I would prefer to see your actual student in your studio. However, they're still fun. I like the slider. It's all good. Another button here, which is great. Again, just make it brighter. Perhaps change the color of the text on hover there, because I can't read it when I'm about to click on it. Really love this information here. It's looking great. And lots of good information there, which is super as well. There's enough content on the page, which is one of the big mistakes we see with studio sites. So we're going to click on this button, see what happens. Okay, so I need to choose which type of lessons I want. I would like to take violin. Why not? Okay. Aha, hang on a sec. Now is that button coming somewhere different? Okay, I'm in a bit of a maze here, to be honest. That contact form is there. Let's go back to the home page to make this clear. This button should take me to a sign up page, because that's what it says it's going to do. And then you have more info. So I'm having to click around. I'm not really sure where I am most of the time. And then I have to click on another button which says the same thing to get to the actual sign up page, but even there, the top of the page does not show that form, and there's no button that sends me down to the bottom. Do you see what I mean? So just making that clear as to where I'm going and sending me directly to where I expect at every stage. Take another quick look around. Lovely page about the teachers, love that, that's great. I really like to see teachers actually playing in their photos. I know that my own photo is not that, but it does look great when people have that. Okay, FAQs are good. Yeah, no complaints there. So I think most of this is looking fantastic. My advice would be around those buttons and around where you're sending people. Just think about the path people are taking within your site. We're going to look at one more. This is Master Keys Piano Academy. So right away on this homepage, what I love is all the photos of real students. Now some of them are stock photos and some are not. So this is a stock. That's probably stock. That probably is. And that is. But this is a real student. Do we see the difference? It's pretty obvious, isn't it? Which ones do you guys prefer? Let me know in the comments here, because I think teachers need to hear this. It might be tempting to think that the fancy photo looks better, but the other ones are more believable. And they help us to imagine our own child. I don't have a child, but if I did, it would help me to imagine them in your studio if I see this. Like, I've got this lovely photo of the kid with the witch's hat. I think that looks super fun. My kid loves dressing up at Halloween, right? And that's going to be part of their piano journey. That's awesome. Or they're going to get to play. This looks like they're all dressed up somewhere fancy. Oh, they're in Hogwarts. Why isn't this bigger? Do you know what I mean? Like, my kid loves Harry Potter. I can picture them really loving that and it gelling them into a piano situation. So, yeah. I would err on the side of those as much as possible. Now, the only button I have on this homepage is this contact one, so it's not a super strong call to action. I would make that stronger, and I would double up. So, book a lesson or whatever you actually want people to do. It's not just contact you, is it? It's something a bit stronger. So make it stronger and keep that button there and make it that, but double the button up and put it here above the fold. Above the fold means before I scroll. So right now before I scroll, I can't really see that button. If you moved it up a bit somehow, I would be able to see it above the fold. And like I say, it should say the same thing as that, and it should be your primary call to action. Okay, we've got a lovely video of you playing. That's great. Lesson plan that works for you. That's interesting. If I'm a parent, I don't think I'm looking for lesson plans. Okay. I think we just need to adjust the wording there slightly. You mean like format. Maybe go with lesson format or just type or option. Something like that, because lesson plan sounds like it's for teachers. Yeah, I think you just need to be a bit more to the point in general in your language here. But otherwise everything is looking really good. And if you make those call to actions stronger, that'll be great. And that start wording is a little bit confusing. Alright. Okay, that should say contact, and that shouldn't say contact. Sorry to be picky, but people expect to see contact in a menu, so that should just say contact, so that I know what I'm doing. Or sign up if you really want. And then this should say sign up. Or start now. Yeah? Okay, hope that feedback is useful there for both of those teachers. There is a post inside the community, inside the Vibrant Music Studio Teachers group on Facebook. So if any of you want to add your website there to be considered for a future one of these, then go right ahead. I pick them kind of at random every week, so it's just luck whether you get a review or not, but I hope you find them useful, even if it's not your own site. It gives you some insights into what you could do on your own site. A lot of the things that I'm saying every week are the same. The regulars here will know that. And that's good news, because it means that it's It's simpler than you think to set up a really great studio website. It's just a simple menu that everyone understands, a clear call to action, hopefully in the top right and in the center of the homepage, lots of photos of you and your students, real photos, and then that's it. That's the main stuff, and then just a bit of about you, just a bit of text to tell us about why you're great, because I'm sure you are. Okay, thank you all so much for joining me today. This has been a blast, as always. It's always a pleasure to hang out with you. We are going to be back on Monday. Not Wednesday next week, Monday, an hour later than this one was, so 4 p.m. Dublin time. I'm not going to do the time zone conversion, but it's 4 p.m. Dublin time. It's an hour later than this broadcast was, and it's going to be on Monday, so I hope you can join me then. We're going to be switching gears away from pedagogy for a week, and we're going to be looking at work-life balance. We'll see if we can get a bit more zen in our lives, shall we? Okay, so I'm going to be back here to talk about that then. I hope you'll consider joining us inside VMT and getting access to some of these fun oral games and all of that fun stuff and all of the website, the online lesson related materials that we've been putting out lately. I know our members have been finding them really useful, and I hope you'll consider joining us inside the community because we would love to have you. In the meantime, I will see you next Monday. I hope you have an awesome rest of your week. Bye for now.